This woman is not as innocent as she looks. 2015 in Nebraska, there was this woman. Her name is Mary Wan. She's known as Little Mary. Mary has a twisted hobby. Neighbors whispered that anyone who crossed her path mysteriously vanished. No one ever suspected her until one day a young boy named Jimmy delivered the groceries to her house. His family searched everywhere for him, but the only clue they found is a single bag of grocery in Mary's doorstep. Jimmy's family called the police, and the police came to Mary and asked Mary whereabouts the missing boy, and Mary offered them tea. The police found nothing in Mary's home, and they moved on. But on one night, a neighbor found something terrifying. Mary was digging a hole at her backyard under the full moon, burying something. The next morning, a new beautiful flower bed appeared on the same spot Mary was digging at night. Guess what? Months later, many people vanished, and Mary was the last person to see them. When the truth came out, it was far worse than anyone ever imagined. You know what Mary did? Mary has been using her victim for fertilizer for her garden. The police and the authorities came to her, and she was vanished. What they found under her bed is so terrifying. What they saw on her bed was horrifying. Watch out for the part 2.
Hey guys, I have a very scary story to tell you about my mum and I when we were in London about 2 months ago. Okay, so we're staying in a really nice hotel. It's 5 stars, beautiful. Anyway, this one night we got home at like 12 a.m. and we got ready for bed, fell asleep, and then I got woken up by mum like nudging me and like whispering something to me, but I sleep with like a sleep mask on, and I must have thought that it was morning because the lights were all on in the room, so I thought it was just daylight. So I took it off and I'm like looking at her and I'm like, what? Like, what do you want? And she's like, Maddie, someone's in our room. And I'm like looking at her. I don't know, I'm still whispering. I'm like looking at her and I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, I swear to God, I just saw someone walk into our bathroom. And I was like, what? And I look at the time and it's 3 a.m. and I'm like, what are you talking about? And we're both silent for like 5 seconds, and then we hear something in the bathroom, and so we jump out of bed and run to the front door, and we're standing by the front door, like we haven't closed the door yet because we don't have a key, and like we've just left everything inside, and it's like quite a big room as well, and the bathroom is right next to the bed, but the lights in the bathroom were off, but we were hearing noises. Anyway, I'm like looking at mum and like our hearts are like racing, and then we couldn't hear anything. Mum was like, maybe I'm hallucinating, or maybe like I dreamt it. And I'm just like, in my head I'm thinking, if this bitch is woke me up 3 a.m. because she's literally dreaming, I'm literally gonna kill her. Anyway, we're still by the door, we're silent. Mum goes around the corner to like look where the bed and bathroom is. She can't see anything, but then she hears like a noise, and so she runs back out, and we're doing the exact same thing. We're standing there like we have no idea what's going on, but we keep hearing these sounds from the bathroom. So then after a little while, it's my turn to look, and I walk around the corner and I run back. I see something and I run back to mum and I go, Mum, there is a man in our bed. And she goes, are you effing serious? And I said, yep, there is a man in our bed. Like, he's in our bed, tucked in on your side. And mum's like, I'm gonna hold the door, you like run down to reception and get security. So I do. My pajamas are inside out, like I don't have any shoes on, my hair's like a mess, and I run down to reception. So I get to reception and I like tell them what's happened. I'm like, a man has come into our room and he's hopped in our bed, and they're like literally so frazzled and confused. Anyway, they come upstairs with me, they come in the door. Mum and I are like waiting out by the door, so we can't actually see what's happening, but we can hear everything that's happening. And we hear the security guards being like, sir, like trying to wake him up. So he was obviously asleep. Like, sir, like you're in the wrong room. Like, are you staying in this? Oh my God, I'm running out of time. I'm sorry, go to part 2.
Guys, creepy story time. So this actually happened last night. My son came into my room like around 3 in the morning, and he said, hey mom, come into my room to sleep with me. Now I found this a little odd because usually like if he wants company, like he'll come into my room and then he'll just snuggle into my bed. But this time he said, come to my room. So I don't know why I didn't think twice. I grabbed my pillow, I grabbed my blanket, and I went into his room and I laid down on the bed. Now I fell asleep fairly quickly because, you know, it's 3 in the morning. But like around 3:15, I hear my heart is beating so fast. I hear this. So I keep hearing it, and I fully wake up, and I keep hearing it, and I'm awake. So I turn to him, and I'm looking at him, right? And I'm like, and I see that his lips are closed, and I keep hearing, and I'm looking at his lips, and I'm like, am I sleeping? So I'm like fully awake. So now I'm sitting up, and I'm hearing, so at this point, I'm freaking out because I'm fully awake. My son's lips are closed. He wakes up. He looks at me and he gives me a kiss, and he goes back to sleep. And I keep hearing. So what I did is I grabbed my phone. I did not want to turn on the light. I did not want to go look down the hallway. I didn't want to do none of that. I turn on my phone, and I started playing the Bible because I have the Bible app. I clicked on it, and I just started playing the Bible really loud, and it stopped. Okay, it stopped. So I fall back asleep, and I start hearing it again after a couple minutes, and this time I'm freaking out. So here is where everything changes. Okay, and now I'm laughing because I'm like, oh my god. So I hear my mom. Oh, I'm gonna run out of time. Okay. So I hear my mom snoring. And she's like, it was my mom snoring the whole time. The relief in my heart, y'all. The relief. Ah!
Y'all, I'm a little freaked out right now. So I'm sitting here on the couch about to put a movie on, okay? My daughter is standing in the hallway, and she looks in the kitchen. Then me and her make eye contact. Then she looks in the kitchen again. And I said, what? She tells me that she sees a black guy in the kitchen. The thing that comes to mind is stand up and go see what's in the kitchen. Because why are you saying you see a black guy in the kitchen when the only people that are home right now are me and my 3 babies, okay? My husband is at work. I said, what black guy? But as I'm saying, what black guy? I'm getting up to go walk into the kitchen, right? I walk in the kitchen. I walk towards the basement. Nobody in there, right? Walk out the kitchen. I said, Mama, what are you talking about? And she starts like describing what she saw. Like she points out the height of it, and it wasn't that much taller than her. She says it's black. It has big red eyes. The mouth is open. And it has big black hands. So immediately after she says that, I become genuinely curious. I'm like, okay, is this like her making up stuff in her imagination? Because we all know kids have an amazing imagination, okay? So I'm asking her questions like, where'd you see that? She points and says she saw it right next to the refrigerator. Okay, so where she was standing at in the hallway from where she pointed where she saw it at the refrigerator, they would be standing like right across from each other, right? So I go in the kitchen, I take a look around again, just basically letting her know like, okay, mommy is looking around, mommy's not scared, like there's nothing to be scared of. I let her know that I don't see nothing in there. She's still talking about it. So I tell her, I'm like, okay, we're not going to talk about it no more. And I immediately start praying over the house. And I tell whatever this thing is, it's not welcome here. We're protected and we're covered by the blood of Jesus Christ himself. This is not that type of household, okay? This is really not that type of household. I don't do that scary shit. I don't do the ghost shit. I don't do the entity, the demon shit. I don't do none of that, okay? So after I do that, and I'm feeling better because I prayed, and I've told this thing that it's not welcome here. Even if it's just a part of her imagination, I feel better knowing that I did that. And then it shows her that, okay, mommy is not scared. Like, mommy is praying over the house. Like, I'm protected. Everything is safe. Everything is good. Here, sit down, and I'm finna scroll and find a movie like I was doing before. She comes back into the living room, and she says, Mom, I don't think that thing is leaving. And I said, why did you say that? And she said, because when I was helping Gio's my son, she was like, when I was helping Gio get his fruit snacks out the pantry, he was standing there again. I don't think he left. Really, as she says that, I stand up because that's my first reaction, to go in there, look again, pray again. But then I'm getting, like, my hair on my freaking arms start standing up. Like, it's like everything, like I'm getting chills. Like, my heart is starting to race. I'm like, bro, what is going on? Like, it's to the point where I'm starting to feel uncomfortable, but I can't let her know that I feel uncomfortable, right? I'm like, okay, Mama, show me where you saw him again. Like, show me where you saw him the second time. And she shows me, and apparently this time he was standing next to the basement, like the stairs to get to the basement. So I'm like, okay. And at this point, my curiosity is at an all-time high, okay? Like, I'm curious. I want to know everything. Like, so I start asking her questions. I'm like, describe him to me again. Where do you see him at? Do you see him when mommy and daddy are sleeping? Because she says it's a guy. So I'm like, do you see him when mommy and daddy are sleeping? Does he talk? Like, I need to know everything. She says he doesn't talk. Okay? So a couple minutes go by and I asked her again. I'm like, does he talk to you? Like, does he say anything to you? She said, Mom, I already told you, he doesn't talk. But then I asked her, like, have you ever seen this thing, like, in videos, movies, like something? Have you ever seen it, like, in front of you, like in a video, a movie, like something? Because then if she tells me that she's seen it in like a video or movie, then I know that it's like, it's not here, you know? She tells me she's never seen it in a video or movie. I promise y'all, I've asked her that question like 6 times because I thought it would make me feel better, but every single time she says no, she hasn't. She only sees it here. Time goes on, and I'm just sitting there thinking about like, what other questions can I ask her so I can have more of the answers that I'm trying to get. My daughter is a little yapper, okay? She loves to come into the living room. She loves to just start random conversations. So I'm sitting on the couch and I'm like actively thinking about it, but I'm also trying to find a movie again, like I've been trying to do since the beginning of this. She comes in here, she's standing by the Christmas tree. The Christmas tree is right here. And she's just like going on and on and on. She's talking about Santa, and then she starts talking about how there's like a black and red present. As soon as she says black and red, I'm automatically tuned in because the thing that she described was black and red. So I'm like, okay, let me listen, because if she's talking, like she's not talking to me. She's just like talking, like just yapping, like just letting her, like just talking, you know? So I'm just like listening. We're like, okay, I want this to be an active conversation. I want to have a conversation with her. So I joined in on a conversation. Out of nowhere, she's like, Mom, do you remember our old place? And I said, yeah. And she said, I like that place better because it's not haunted. Like, do you think this place is haunted? And she was like, it is haunted. And I was like, I'm also going to be telling my husband about this when he gets home because I am genuinely freaked out. Like goosebumps, chills, heart racing. Like I'm not going to be calm until I tell him, until I get the answers I want, because this is the first time she's ever brought this to me. I'm freaked out, to say the least, okay?
So check this crazy ass loophole I just went through. I nutted in the condom. Put water in the condom. Okay? Then you want to take it a step further, put the condom over a light. At that point, you're going to see a homemade lava lamp. Not cabin though.
My neighbor's dog keeps barking, so if you hear it, I'm so sorry. Also, I need to cut the bad habit of biting the skin off of my lips when I get nervous. I don't know how to stop that, okay? Anyway, this girl wrote into Relatos de la Noche because she says she keeps seeing her sister's doppelganger. Am I saying it right? I hope I am. She said that when she first noticed this, she would see her sister go to a room, and then she would see her come from a different way, and she was like, what the hell, I just saw you go in there. And it kind of escalated from there. There was one time where her mom and her and another sister were in the living room, and she got a little cold, so she was gonna go upstairs and get a sweater. When she went up the stairs, she turned on the lights from the stairs only because she was just gonna grab a sweater really quickly. Once she grabs the sweater, she comes out to the hallway, and with the light from the stairs, she can see into her sister's room, and she said that she can clearly see her laying in bed. She mentioned that she did think it was weird that her sister was asleep, but she didn't really give it that much importance and just went back down the stairs with her other sister and mom. Once she went down there, she got chills all over her body because what she saw was that same sister that was asleep in her room on the kitchen table doing her homework. She did tell her mom then and there what she had seen upstairs, but the mom confirmed that the sister had been at the table for a while now with her headphones in, really focused on her homework, so there's no way that she was up there asleep. She said that after her mom told her that, she really didn't want to read too much into it, and she tried to justify it by just telling herself that maybe since only the stairs lights were on, she thought she she saw somebody on her sister's bed. But she also knew that she was kind of trying to lie to herself just so she could feel better and not have a panic about it. However, a few days passed and this is what the mom experienced. So before I start, I just want to let you know that from the mom's room, she could see 2 of the bedroom doors. And that's for the 2 daughters, the one that's telling us the story and the one that they keep seeing the doppelganger of. And at the end of that, there's also a restroom, which she can see all of this from her room. So the mom says that it was one night where she just couldn't fall asleep and she was tossing and turning. And while she couldn't fall asleep, she saw that the daughter, the doppelganger one, she got out of her room and went into the restroom. At this point, the mom had turned the TV on because she knew she just couldn't fall asleep. And after 15 minutes, she was like, wait, I have not seen her get out of that restroom. So she kind of got a little worried. So the mom goes to the restroom expecting to see her daughter there, but the lights were off. She opens the door and there is nobody in that restroom. So out of curiosity, she's like, I never saw her go back to her room, so let me check. She opens the daughter's bedroom door and the girl is asleep on her bed. The mom was a little freaked out because there is no explanation as to why she saw her daughter go in, never saw her come out, and then her daughter is fast asleep on her bed. So back to the sister, because she's the one that's writing in this story. She says that something else happened and it was probably the scariest thing that happened and the last time she saw her sister's doppelganger. It was New Year's Day and the girl that's writing in, her boyfriend invited her entire family to go spend New Year's with his family, and they did. And they didn't end up coming back home until 4 in the morning. She said that when they got home, everybody went to their bedrooms because it was really late and, well, I guess early, but they were all really tired and they were gonna go to bed. She said before she went to sleep, she went to the restroom and was washing her face, taking her makeup off, and brushing her teeth. She mentions that she didn't close the door because it's not like she was in use the toilet or shower. She was just trying to do everything quickly to go to bed. And that was when she saw her sister pass by and go down the stairs. And she didn't really think anything of it until she realized that her sister never turned the stairs light on. She said that she walked out of the restroom not really thinking about anything but except for why she didn't turn the lights on, and by the time she got to the top of the stairs, her sister was already at the last step and she lost sight of her when she went into the living room. Once she got to the living room, even though she lost sight of her, she again thought it was weird that she hasn't turned any lights on. She mentions that since her and her sister were little, they always accompanied each other downstairs, or like they never like to go down there alone. They always keep each other's company, right? So that's what she thought in that moment. She was like, well, let me go with her because I don't know what she's doing and, you know, maybe she needs my company. She's about to go down the stairs as she hears her sister's voice behind her say, what are you looking at? What are you doing? Her real sister had just came out of the bedroom, her bedroom, asking her what the hell she had been looking at and where is she going. She said that she stayed frozen in that moment because she was just about to go down there. She saw her sister walk down those steps and her sister had just opened her own bedroom door and said, what are you doing? I wouldn't even know what the fuck to do. She said that she wants to blame it on maybe drinking on New Year's, but like no, because she clearly saw her pass by that door, like saw her go down the stairs and lost sight of her when she was going to the living room. So she doesn't know what to think about it, but she doesn't think it was her drinking that caused her to see that, you know? By the way, this happened in January of this year, 2024. This is something that happened recently. She says that she hasn't seen it again since, but she doesn't know what to make of it. Like, is it a spirit or is it like a true doppelganger of her sister? But it just freaks her out. I'm not gonna lie, if that was me and my sister had just come out of her bedroom, which one is the real one? At this point, I don't trust anyone, nobody. I'm gonna lock myself in my room. But also the fact that it happened this year and more things could possibly happen other than that, I would never trust my sister again. I can't. If I see her, like, is it you or is it not you? Anyway, what do you guys think about it? I'm gonna put this story here with the time that it starts. It's from Relatos de la Noche, and of course it is 1,000 times scarier in Spanish.
Oh, yeah, one more thing. If y'all see me on Love Island, mind your fucking business, bitch. I'm trying to find love, bitch. Y'all had y'all motherfucking chance.
This TikToker by the name of Good Guy Dejected posted this video of something staring at him while he was in his bed. I'm gonna roll the clip right now.
I was on TikTok in my room when I heard something. I was hoping this fish shit didn't move.
Time to go inside.
Somebody over there.
Over where?
Right there.
Hey! What are you doing over there?
Her name is now not clear. Too fast.
I'm currently on the floor because it's 8:30 at night and someone just rang the doorbell at my front door, and my parents are sleeping and my sister is sleeping and I'm the only one up. Like, who the frick is at my front door at 8:30 p.m.? I'm kind of scared. Okay.
Something very strange is happening on our planet.
What is this, y'all? These things are moving really, really fast. No planes or aircraft.
If you scare easily, use your discernment, but this is the completely uncut and unfiltered clips that I took tonight after a couple of really weird things happened in my house. My daughter's been asleep for 2 hours.
Disturbing videos that cannot be explained. A police body cam captures lady vanishing out of nowhere.
Hey, how's it going?
I was speeding, wasn't I?
Yeah, you completely blew past that stop sign in front of me.
I did. I'm so sorry. I literally didn't even see it.
Right.
This is my first time being pulled over.
All right. Can I see your driver's license registration, please?
Yeah.
It's not a big deal.
Here's my license, but this is my mom's car, so...
Where are you headed to where you're speeding and missing stop signs?
I was just headed to a friend's house. It's like literally right there. It's a birthday party. So,
Got it.
Not mine, but...
Any drugs or alcohol in the vehicle?
No, of course not.
All right. Sit tight, Sarah. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Your registration is What the?
Sarah?
What the heck? Sarah? 3201 to dispatch. Hi.
You won't believe it. In an unexpected scene captured near an old air raid shelter, a man stumbled upon something truly bizarre. His camera focused on a massive cave opening, and what emerged left him speechless. From the darkness of the cave, a pack of goats began to file out, but they weren't wandering aimlessly. Leading the procession was a lone dog, confidently guiding the herd like a seasoned commander. The goats followed in perfect formation, their disciplined march resembling a well-rehearsed routine. The man couldn't believe his eyes. How could one dog single-handedly control such a large group of goats? This wasn't just an unusual sight. It was a display of extraordinary leadership by man's best friend. Who trained the dog? Why were the goats so obedient? This scene raises so many questions and leaves viewers marveling at the mysterious bond between animals.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.
Everything I do, so instinctive and so passionate. Every word I move, so descriptive like an adjective. I got a vendetta against people who patented being negative when you should be getting after it. I got facts over tracks, this and that. Spitting slow, spitting fast, I could roast, I could gas. Think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past. And the pettiness, a reflection of the emptiness. Hilarious, you think you're worth my time, you're delirious. Mysterious, because you hide behind a fake exterior. Inferior, you know I'll always be a bit superior.
So check this crazy ass loophole I just went through. I nutted in the condom.
Danas sam trebala izaći sa prijateljima, a onda sam pogledala na sat. Horor priča s Reddita, part 1. Autorica ove priče vas upozorava da ne gledate na sat dok priča ne završi. Bilo je oko 5:30 kad sam se krenula spremati za izaći u grad sa prijateljima. Željela sam neko vrijeme za sebe pa sam isključila mobitel, a na televiziju nisam obraćala pozornost. Kad je došlo vrijeme da krenem, uključila sam mobitel i vidjela mnoštvo propuštenih poruka i poziva. Moja obitelj i prijatelji su bili zabrinuti za moju sigurnost. Nisam znala što se događa i odmah sam nazvala svoju najbolju prijateljicu Tinu. Prvo sam je čula kako plače, a zatim mi je dubokim glasom rekla da joj odmah otvorim vrata i da se nalazi ispred moje kuće. I stvarno, čula sam glas koji je bio jako sličan njoj i kucanje. U trenutku kad sam išla otvoriti vrata, dobila sam još jednu poruku na mobitelu. Bila je od moje prijateljice Tine. Ne otvaraj vrata, to nisam ja. Part 2 imate na profilu.
There's a really strange missing persons case happening right now out of Utah. Let's talk about it. This is 21-year-old Elizabeth Green. She was last seen walking to work along a dirt road in Callio, Utah, which is an extremely remote area in northern Snake Valley. Like, there really isn't much out there, and the area she went missing is roughly 3 hours from any major city. Elizabeth had just started a new job at a remote ranch, and she was walking there that day, but never made it, and it's almost like she vanished into thin air. She was reported missing to the police later that day, and they began looking for her right away. Authorities have searched the area around her home and the ranch that she was going to work at, including the route that she would have taken to get there, but no trace of Elizabeth has been found. Police searched the ranch, which has not been publicly named, just one day after Elizabeth was reported missing, but according to them, they didn't find anything suspicious. The rancher said that she never made it to the ranch that day and that he had no contact with her, so it's left authorities wondering what truly happened to her that day. Police have tried pinging her phone, but they aren't able to get a connection, and they've searched all of her electronic devices, but they've all turned up nothing. There's been no activity on her social media accounts since that day either. Her mom thinks that Elizabeth could have possibly been picked up that day, but she just doesn't know by who. There's also a possibility that she arranged to have someone pick her up, but they didn't show, which could have led to Elizabeth trying to walk through the remote desert by herself. According to her family, she does suffer from some mental health issues and has ran away before, but no matter what, she's always stayed in contact with her family and she's always come back within a day. She would never just up and leave like this. Just based on the circumstances, police believe that she's in immediate danger. Like I mentioned before, Callio is extremely remote and so far away from any major city, so the fact that she just mysteriously disappeared and left behind no trace in a matter of hours is just terrifying. It's now been over a month and Elizabeth is still missing. With the summer weather coming up, we need to find out what really happened to her that day. These are some of her characteristics and what she was last seen wearing. If you have any information about this case, please contact the number on the screen.
The night I started believing in the paranormal. Hi y'all, I'm watching the most recent podcast and heard y'all were looking for some spooky ghost stories, and I've got one that still creeps me out to this day. Sorry in advance for the long post, but I want to get all the details in. LOL. Now, just to preface, this story happened a few years ago when I was still in high school. I grew up in a small town, so it was often hard for us young, angsty teens to find things to do. Me, now 21 female, and my best friend, also 21 female, our usual Friday night consisted of driving around aimlessly trying to find something to do. This night, it was me, my best friend, who I'll call Cindy, Cindy's boyfriend, Aaron, and Aaron's best friend, Zach. Now, on to the story. We were doing our usual routine of driving around the nearby big city when Aaron decided to call up his other friend who lived nearby. Now, this friend I'd never met before, but Aaron said he lived in this small mountain town close to where we were driving. I'd never heard of this town, but it is known for its history in being an old copper mining town. The friend didn't answer, but we decided to drive up that way anyways, as the friend had a cool car Aaron and Zach wanted to look at. Big car guys. We start driving up there, and mind you, it's close to 2 a.m. at this point. We had driven on dark roads throughout this entire night, and the vibes were all good. We're driving on this dark, barren road when we pass under a bridge. Immediately, I become overwhelmed by this eerie feeling. Something just felt off. I thought it was just me experiencing this, as everyone else was talking and joking about, so I brushed it off. By the time we get up to the town, Cindy was passed out in the passenger seat. I was sat behind Cindy, and Zach was sat behind Aaron, who was driving. The second we start to see houses, we all collectively agree that something about this town was just off. The streets looked impeccably clean and polished, the sidewalks all completely smooth, as if the concrete had just been laid. I had made an offhand comment about how it felt like we were transported to another time. The boys in the car collectively agreed with me, all of us acknowledging how it felt like we had passed through a portal straight to the 1930s. We continued on the drive, making jokes in an attempt to lighten the strange atmosphere we had stumbled upon. At this point, I chalked it up to the dark night and the fact that the whole town was likely asleep. Then we see the park. Now here's the thing about this park. It wasn't a full-on park, literally just a plot of grass with huge ass trees. The road allowed you to loop completely around the park, and it was absolutely empty when we first arrived. Aaron makes a comment about the park, saying he had taken pictures of his car in it before. Then he decides to drive around the park and show us where the photos were taken. As we begin the loop around this park, I feel this creepy feeling begin to intensify. The best way to describe it is it was like a heavy weight pushing down on the air in the car. At this point, it's close to summer, so all the windows are down as we're cruising along. Once we get close to the end of the loop, I spot a couple of deer outside my window. This was the first and only sign of life we saw the entire time we were there. No people, no other animals, no cars, just 3 deer. Aaron pulls over so we can get a better look at them and then decides to call his friend again to see if he would answer. At this point, I'm watching these deer and trying to distract myself from this seemingly unwarranted anxiety I was feeling. While Aaron was on the phone, Cindy was still passed out, and Zach is staring out his open window, which faced the park. Not long into us being parked here, does Zach start to yell and frantically try to roll up his window. Both Aaron and I were shocked by Zach's sudden screaming, and both go look at whatever had freaked Zach out so much. When I look out Zach's window, I saw something that I still cannot explain to this day. There, sitting beside one of the large trees, was a pure white figure. So white it looked like it was glowing. I got a pretty good glimpse at this figure, and it almost seemed blurry, but you could clearly make out the shape of a hooded person. It appeared to be kneeling with its head bowed, almost like it was praying. At this point, Zach is screaming for Aaron to get us the fuck out of there. All I could do was freeze in fear and stare at this figure sat alone in the park.
Did anyone else see that story of that lady on TikTok? Wait, let me explain. So this lady said that she's been married for 8 years and that her husband is deployed overseas all the way in Germany. She says that she barely sees her husband. He comes home like 2 or 3 times a year, and when he's home, he only stays for about 2 or 3 weeks. So for the last 2 years, she says she's been feeling real lonely, and she decided to go out and cheat on her husband. She said that she went and she had a one-night stand, and this one-night stand was so good that it turned into an every-night stand. And she recently found out she's pregnant. And clearly this is not her husband's because her husband's overseas, so the man that she's been sleeping with got her pregnant. So now, her and this dude have been messing with each other for 2 years, back and forth. Mind you, she has 3 kids with her husband. She said at first they were getting hotels and stuff, to keep her anonymous. But then, after 2 years, she got a little comfortable, and now she's allowed to go to his house. He's still not allowed to come to hers because, she got kids, and he don't got no kids. Usually she goes over there, and, she's not really paying attention to what's in her house because she has no real feelings for this man. She just, got lonely. But one day, as she's walking in, she decides to pay a little bit close attention to the pictures on his wall. And as she's looking over the pictures on her wall, guess who she sees? Her husband. So now she's freaking out because she's like, how is a picture of my husband and him in this frame on the wall? Of course, she starts panicking. She has to get to the bottom of this, but she doesn't know how to bring it up without saying, like, how do you know this man? Because this is my husband. So after a while, she decides, like, I'm just going to ask around, like, oh, who's this? Oh, that's my grandma. Oh, who that? That's my uncle. So who is this? Y'all would never believe what the man said. The man gonna say, oh, that's my brother. She was thinking, like, there's no way because she's been married to him for 8 years and he's never been in none of the family functions. Like, she never even heard of her husband speak of him. So she asked, oh, is this from your dad's side? He said, yes, from my dad's side. So that makes sense because, the dad got a whole bunch of other kids. So it makes sense to why, she never really seen him. But y'all, the man she's been sleeping with 2 years is her husband's brother. But the story doesn't stop there. So he's like, yeah, that's my brother. I'm real close with him. She's all confused. Like, He starts pulling out pictures. He pulls out a picture. He said, yeah. So she's like, oh, so is he married? He was like, yeah, he is. To his wife in Germany. Yeah, they got 2 kids over there. He has a nice little family in Germany. Y'all, why the man start pulling up pictures of her husband with his wife, his new wife in Germany, and their kids? Mind you, she's pregnant by this man, who she just found out is her husband's brother. She also just found out that her husband got a whole family in Germany. So now she don't know what to do because she's been cheating on her husband clearly has been cheating on her, and now there's a baby about to be involved. Hey, that was just a story I seen, but what would y'all do?
How does a grown man disappear after having abdominal surgery just to be found in the hospital ceiling nearly 2 weeks later? And is it coincidence that another man in a similar situation also ended up in the ceiling of a hospital in the same country? When 61-year-old Tedetiki went in for surgery at the Stellenbosch Hospital, he was understandably nervous about this procedure. He underwent the abdominal surgery on October 5th, 2017, and everything went just as expected. However, during his recovery, his nurse left the room for what she claimed was mere seconds in order to grab some fresh linens. But as she returned to the room, Tedetiki was nowhere to be found. The nurse frantically searched for her patient, positive that he couldn't have gotten far. Because of the seriousness of his surgery, he was bedridden, left almost completely unable to move independently. She called his family to ask if he had somehow returned home, sending his family into a panic. His family rushed to the hospital, searching the hospital grounds themselves before reporting him missing. The initial search for Tedetiki was unsuccessful. It was as if he had just vanished into thin air, but nobody could explain how. 13 days later, as a construction crew worked on hospital renovations, they discovered Tedetiki's body in an isolated area of the hospital ceiling. An area that's incredibly difficult to reach, even for a completely capable person, much less for somebody healing from major abdominal surgery, or for somebody attempting to lift a grown man above their heads by themselves. Police reported that Tedetiki's autopsy somehow pointed to natural causes of death, but seemingly never handed that report over. His family showed a lack of faith in the investigation, saying that they were told that nothing more could be done in his case, and it remains that way to this day. Similarly, just 2 years later, on May 10, 2019, a 53-year-old construction worker named Sandil was admitted to the Mahatma Gandhi Memorial Hospital. Sandil had been helping a neighbor with a house repair when a wall collapsed, breaking his right femur. After arriving at the hospital and being assessed, Sandil's doctor suggested a transfer to a different hospital for treatment. But before the transfer could take place, Sandil had disappeared. His nurse went to check in on him and found him missing. The staff immediately began searching for him and subsequently reported him missing when they were unable to locate him. Weeks later, hospital staff would begin complaining about what they called an unbearable stench. Shortly after, a staff member would find a leak dripping down from the ceiling into the hospital storeroom. On May 25th, Sandil's decomposing body would be discovered in the hospital's ceiling. How did he get in the ceiling after breaking the biggest bone in his body? Sandil's family demanded answers, reporting that they were initially denied the ability to view his body. In both cases, the men had conditions that would prevent them from moving comfortably. How were they able to walk around freely in their state without staff or hospital visitors noticing? Not to mention the effort it would take for them to somehow climb up into the ceiling. Not much can be found on either of these cases, and both remain unsolved to this day.
I was on YouTube and ran across this YouTube video titled, "I was sold to the highest bidder for my organs," and I, much like you probably are right now, was completely taken aback. It's a video of Loretta Lyon telling her story. As a teenager, around the age of 17, she was kidnapped by what has been described to be an organ harvesting gang. She was held captive for 6 months, and just when you think the story cannot get any worse, it does, many times. And I think that everyone should hear the story, so we're gonna talk about it. Loretta was born in Yugoslavia in the 80s, and growing up, she was a happy kid. Her parents had unfortunately struggled with having children, so when they had her, they looked at her as their little miracle. When she was a baby, her parents moved to what is now known as Serbia, and the place in which they lived was surrounded by a lot of land, farming villages, woods, mountains. Her mom was a professor, her father was a doctor, and he was the person that she looked up to the most. At the time of the story, she had decided that she had the same drive that her father did for wanting to help people, and she knew that she wanted to follow in his footsteps and study medicine as well. But the civil war in Yugoslavia and everything that came along with it would get in between that. Loretta has said that her greatest gift in life was not only the love that her parents gave her, but the love that she had for her parents and still does. And to explain the Yugoslav civil wars in very simple terms so you guys don't get confused, because this is a lot of information I'm about to throw at you, but basically, Yugoslavia, the country, was made up of a lot of different states, different groups, different ethnic groups, religion, histories, etc. They all wanted to split up, and different parts of Yugoslavia went to war with each other. This lasted years, and it was a horrible, massive war zone. That environment made it incredibly easy for criminal groups to operate because there really wasn't a stable government or really any real police protection. People were hiding, running, starving, trying to escape the country. Kidnappings were tragically common, especially of young women. Many people did not survive, and it really felt like things just kept going from bad to worse. Loretta and her family were taken away from their house by soldiers alongside of a big group of people and into the mountains, clueless as to why or what was going on. And it was her uncle who stood up to the soldiers basically to negotiate did and offer everything that he had of value in exchange for the soldiers to keep them alive. And it worked. Because her uncle gave up basically everything that he had of value, the soldiers then left the big group of people marching up the mountain, uncertain in the dark and in the cold. Everyone was panicked, babies were crying, but Lorada and her family eventually made it back to town, realizing that their uncle's bribe had worked and they had spared them of their lives, really. He had pretty much saved the village because of what he did, and after that night, Lurada's dad knew that he had to make sure that Lurada fled. He needed her to leave the town, pack a bag, and leave the village because the soldiers were very clearly targeting young women, and he told her that if she stayed, she was not going to make it. So her mom helped her pack a bag, and off she went into the night to cross the mountain to seek help. She was young, scared, alone. When she reached the other side of the mountain, she described it as seeing no life because the streets were dark and empty. The only sign of life was coming from this little restaurant type of place, so she walked in there to ask for a glass of water and immediately broke down and started crying. Shortly after, two men, Peter and Brian, who were police officers that served for the United Nations, walked in. They saw her and they pretty much took her underneath their wing. They knew that it wasn't safe for a 17-year-old girl to be alone anywhere, and they took her, they gave her shelter, they let her stay under their roof and cared for her. And even though Lurada was terrified, she felt like she had no other option but to trust them, and she did, and they kept her safe for about a month, but unfortunately that did not last forever. One day, while Peter and Brian were out working, Lurada decided to go outside of the apartment to go and find a magazine. But as soon as she walked out, a black van drove straight to her, completely blocking her path. A group of men jumped out, one of them placing a black bag over her head, and another one grabbed her and threw her inside of the van. They closed the door and drove off. She had no idea where they were going. She was petrified, unable to see anything around her until the van eventually stopped. One of the men carried Lurada out of the van, more like dragged her out of the van and into this scary looking building. They put her in a dark, cold room where a man was waiting for her. They ripped the bag off of her head, and for the first time she was able to see her surroundings, but before she knew it, she was on her knees on the ground, a group of men staring down at her, some of them pinning her down, when one of them instructed the others to flip her over and SA her. Lurada started crying, screaming, trembling in fear, now understanding what was about to happen to her, and she yelled at them to stop, saying that she had never ever done anything with a boy or a man before. And when she made that comment, the men did stop, but not because they felt bad for her, of course not, but because knowing that, they now looked at her as being quote unquote pure, and they knew that they would be able to get a lot in exchange for her because she was pure. The man who appeared to be in charge of everyone stopped the men and said, quote, "Boys, we have stumbled across a huge cargo. We have a lot of work to do with her," end quote. Lurada would soon come to find out what that meant. For the next days, turning into weeks, the men trained her. This 17-year-old girl, they trained her on intimate acts. She was forced to watch the men do horrific things to other women and girls in order to teach her, or show her rather, what certain things looked like, to prepare her for her to be ready for when they gave her in exchange for valuables to the highest bidder. It's awful. You say these things out loud. It's hard to comprehend that they actually happened. Lurada has said oftentimes that she would become sick from what she had to witness. Their plan was to get her ready for the men to pay the highest value. She would then be taken, shipped away, and used, treated in every inhumane way you could possibly ever think of, and once they were done with her, once everybody was done with her, she would then be looked at as having no more value. And then they would take her organs, any vital organs that she had left, they would be taken and sold into the black market. That's what she gathered by witnessing everything that she did and hearing the conversations around her and seeing it happen to other girls firsthand. She said that they even told her what they were going to do because they had done this many times before, and she said that when they would tell her, they found it hilarious. It was comical to them talking about their plan. It was more so routine by that point. I cannot comprehend or even begin to try and understand the level of fear anyone would be in that situation. When Lurada was deemed as ready, they put her in the car to be transported to wherever they were taking her. They made the drive and they reached the border, but the border was closed. And police officers there told them that they could not cross and sent them back to wherever they came from. You can imagine the relief that Lurada felt when they were turned away from the border. When they got back to their apartment, the boss man was around and he got pulled away on a phone call. He was getting really agitated on the phone. He walked away. The other two guards standing around Lurada also got distracted for a moment, and she knew that if she got a chance to escape, it would be one chance, and that one chance was now or never. The boss directed one of the guards to get rid of Lurada, saying that she had proved to be way more trouble than what she was worth, and directed the guard to just get rid of her. But for whatever reason, thankfully, the one guard that was left with her gave her the one thing that she asked for, and what she asked for was for just a few minutes to pray. She wanted to pray. The guy allowed her to, and he set his belongings down on a nearby nearby table and walked off to use the bathroom. One of the things that he set down on the table before walking off for a moment were his keys. And the second Loretta was left alone, she grabbed the keys off the table and she made a run for it. She kept thinking over and over again that she just had to get a hold of her parents because she wanted to be able to tell them where she was and what was about to happen to her so that they would not spend the rest of their lives wondering where she was and if she was still alive. Loretta, using the sliver of hope and strength that she had left, grabbed the keys. There were 2 doors in between the room that she was in and the outside, and she was moving as fast as she could but as quietly as she could so the guard wouldn't hear her trying to escape. She made her way to the first door. It was a big wooden door and she was able to get through that one door without anyone hearing her, but the second door, that one was locked and that one was a loud, heavy metal door. She knew that she wasn't going to be able to open that one quietly, so she started to play around with the keys to try and figure out which one fit, which is when the guard, heard her, started yelling at her and running towards her, but luckily she found the key. And she pushed the door open and fell onto the street outside where she saw what looked to be a police car. She crawled on the ground when officers noticed her, but by that point the guard had also made it outside. And he had now ran out to the street chasing after her. The one guard pulled out his weapon and that was going off. The police officers also pulled out theirs as well. So Loretta was on the ground quite literally trying to crawl her way to safety without getting injured, but she managed to. One of the officers grabbed her and pulled her into his Jeep and she made it, and they took her to the station to be questioned while other officers remained right outside of where she had just escaped from, calling all units for backup. By the time that she got to the station and she was interviewed, she was obviously still so scared and clueless of what was going to happen to her. It was now 3 a.m. And one of the officers there, a man that was close to her father's age, after the interview asked if he could give her a hug. He was in tears, fully crying from just listening to her story. She refused the hug because she was rightfully so still so scared of everyone and unsure of who she could trust. But that officer looked at her and said, quote, "Do you know you were the only survivors to ever come out of these people," end quote. He said to her, "We know what's happening in there. We know what they're doing, but we cannot bring them to justice because we have never had a witness." They told her that she was the only witness that had ever lived to tell her story, which only scared her more because that meant that she was the only witness that was still alive, and it meant that those men would come after her to get rid of her for sure. The police took Loretta back to Peter and Brian, remember the 2 men who had helped her out and kept her safe. They took her in for the night, fed her, gave her a blanket, and stayed up with her throughout the entire night, cared for her, until the next morning when she had to cross the mountain again and return to her family, return to her village, even though she was not safe there. She couldn't stay where she was because she knew that those men would come after her and they would get rid of her in a second. So she went back home to her family. Thankfully, her parents were still alive, and obviously everyone was so happy and relieved to see her alive, but still so scared about the fact that she had returned because their town was still so far away from being safe for anyone, let alone a young woman. Her mom actually, instead of hugging her and telling her that she was glad to see her, she became hysterical, crying because she was so scared for her. And she should have been, because the next thing they knew, there was a group of men, soldiers, in a massive truck pulling up right to their house to take her. And in a matter of seconds, Loretta was once again being ripped away, physically ripped away from her family. She was taken, pulled into this big military truck, leaving her parents behind her, crying out for her. She was driven into the mountain, dropped off at this building that looked to be like an abandoned building where she would be kept for the next 6 months. The treatment that she experienced there was horrible in every single shape, way, and form. She was left with trauma not only from the essay that she had to endure, but from other ways and things that were done to her. She had a broken nose. She was always 24/7 absolutely covered in injuries. Those days turned into weeks. They turned into months of her being trapped in this dim, small room in solitary confinement. And when she was there, she felt herself withering away. Her parents saw her being taken, so she no longer felt hope to stay alive for them, to be able to tell them that she was okay, to tell them that she had not abandoned them. They saw her being taken away and they knew that she probably wasn't going to return back home, so she really felt like she had absolutely nothing left to hold on to. And she remembers that gave her a really strange feeling of closure and peace. She remembers thinking that everything that made her her was taken away from her by what she described to be men that were turned into monsters during the war. This is a quote from her, quote, "The 6 months were a profound experience for me, initially filled with resentment and hate. I mirrored their hostility reality until I realized it was consuming me. Despite the suffering, I refused to let them strip me of my humanity. Instead, I chose empathy, even pity, recognizing their own twisted reality. I clung to my sense of kindness, refusing to let them break my spirit or my sanity, end quote. Throughout those 6 months, what Lurata did not know was that her father was not giving up on the search for her. Her dad, with the help of a sympathetic police officers that he had known for a while, managed to figure out where she was being kept because her dad was a doctor, remember, so he had been working with soldiers because no matter what was going on, he was still expected to be one of the designated doctors who was helping people who were hurt, and the two of them together came up with this plan to rescue her in the middle of the night. They had to make sure that it was dark out when they went to rescue her to limit their chances of being caught, and then her dad went to go and find her. When the door opened and Lurata saw her dad and heard his voice, she could not believe it. She was so weak by that point, she could hardly even stand. All of her wounds were infected. She had broken teeth, a broken nose, I think also a broken jaw. But seeing his face was the one and only thing she needed to gather up enough strength to get out of there. Her dad covered her up, got her in the car, and drove her back to go and see her mom. When her mom saw her, she broke into tears. Both of her parents helped Lurata the entire night with her injuries. And it was only when she was lying on her mom's lap that night that she finally was able to feel a sense of safety again. After her rescue, her dad again came up with a plan to get her out of that country because it was obvious that she was no longer safe there. Her dad, with the help of a police officer, got a truck that was being used in import-export activities. They used that truck to hide her in it and drive her away. She waved goodbye to her parents, still so scared but trusting in her dad's judgment. And with a very heavy heart, she hopped in that truck and hid inside of it until they made it all the way to the UK. It wasn't until they were actually in the UK that she came out of hiding and she was finally safe. Lurata was able to go to university, follow the dream that she always had. She became a British citizen, and 5 years after that, she was finally able to reunite with her parents again. She became a personal trainer, which was a huge turning point for her because she found that fitness was something that really helped her be able to manage her emotions, and it makes me so happy to say that she also found love. She got married, and today she's not only a survivor, but she's also a motivational speaker, an author, a public speaker, and a lifestyle coach. The strength of this woman is literally out of this world, and I retold her story after hearing her tell it, but I think obviously it is the most impactful listening to the story in her own words, considering she survived and fortunately lived to tell her story, which often is not the case in cases like this. So I will leave the link to the YouTube video that I saw in the comments, but I want to end this video with a quote from her. Quote, "Life offers us choices regardless of the challenges we face. We can opt to remain victims or embrace survival and growth. Every setback is a lesson, not punishment. It's about recognizing both the good and the bad in people and situations and making choices that empower us. Starting the day positively, replacing self-criticism with affirmations, and surrounding ourselves with possibility sets the tone for success. We cannot control how others treat us, but we can control our responses and our journey towards making a difference in the world," end quote. Tell me that's not the craziest story you have ever heard, and I'm so happy that it was a survival story. I don't even know what word would do justice to describe her. She is incredible. Sorry about the lighting throughout this video. As you can tell, the sun was setting while I was filming, which did not take me that long, but I live in the Midwest, so the sun sets in like 5 minutes at 2 p.m. Anyway, that is all I have for today's story. Thank you for spending time with me today and for listening to Lurata's story. Hope you guys are having the best day. If not, go do something to make it the best day. Make somebody happy, and I will see you in my next video. Massive kiss on the forehead to every single one of you.
One of the most bizarre and terrifying things I've ever heard is the voicemail that Henry McCabe left for his wife right before he disappeared. It's unlike anything I've ever heard before. Henry McCabe was 32 years old at the time that he disappeared. He was a hard-working state auditor, a loving husband, and the proud father of 2 beautiful children before he vanished on September 7th, 2015. It was Labor Day weekend. Henry's wife and kids were out of town visiting some family in California, so Henry decided to have a little bit of like a guy's night. It was September 6th, 2015. Henry and his friends decided to go to a nightclub called Polabinski's in Minnesota. At the nightclub, multiple of Henry's friends said that he was drinking a lot. So much so that his friends actually took his wallet and his keys from him. Henry was last seen leaving the bar around 1:40 a.m. and he was seen by multiple witnesses that saw him getting into his friend William's car. But instead of driving Henry home, William claims that he dropped Henry off at a gas station between 2:15 a.m. Within minutes of being dropped off at this gas station, Henry would leave a voicemail on his wife's phone, and to this day, it's probably one of the most bizarre and terrifying things I've ever heard. On the voicemail, many people claim to hear different things. Some people claim to hear someone say that they've been shot. Other people claim to hear someone say, "Stop it." Other people claim to hear someone begging for help. I'm going to play it for you now. Let me know what you hear. And after leaving that voicemail on his wife's phone at 2:28 a.m. on September 7th, 2015, Henry McCabe would never be seen alive again or ever heard from ever again. Initially, there was a lot of suspicion towards Henry's friend William, since William was the last person to ever see Henry alive. I mean, red flag number one, what kind of person would leave anyone that's been drinking alone at a gas station at 2 a.m., especially without their wallet or their keys? I mean, if you think your friend is too drunk that you have to take their keys and their wallet from them, why would you possibly ever leave them at a gas station at 2 a.m. by themselves? Red flag number two would come when William would later change his story about what gas station he even left Henry at. The case would then take a tragic turn 55 days after Henry disappeared on November 2nd, when his body was found by a kayaker. His body was found floating face down in Rush Lake. The lake was 6 miles away from the gas station that he was supposedly dropped off at, and it was also in the complete opposite direction of his house. So it's not even like you could say that he was walking home and accidentally, drunkenly fell into this lake. How did he get to this lake and why? Reportedly, there was no trauma to Henry's body, and despite that bizarre last voicemail that Henry left for his wife, the coroner ruled his death as an accidental drowning. As far as I know, the police have not listed an official cause and or manner of death for Henry McCabe. Something else really strange, despite multiple witnesses saying that Henry was really drunk, his blood alcohol level was below the legal limit at 0.053. When Henry's body was found, his cell phone was in his pocket, but the battery of his cell phone had been taken out and was in a different pocket. And probably one of the most chilling aspects of this entire case, Henry's phone records showed that the day that he vanished, his phone was used to call the same number 24 times. One of those times was only an hour after leaving that strange voicemail on his wife's phone. Henry's phone would also be used to call that same number for the next 3 days. The last call being made at 9:30 a.m. on September 10th. So if Henry accidentally drunkenly fell into Rush Lake the day that he vanished with his phone in his pocket, how was his phone making calls for 3 days after he disappeared?